Hi, so this week's video I'm going to show you how to make this exploding box in ScanNCut Canvas. So these have been around for years, but they seem to be becoming more popular again. I've noticed a few of them popping up on Pinterest and that kind of thing. So in the video I'm going to show you how to make all the layers for this pop-up box and how to make the lid. Obviously, I've not decorated this. This is just my prototype. So it's just, the bare basic card, but you can cut, matting layers for each of your sections and you can decorate them how you want. Some people put something in the middle that stand up because obviously you've got some height. And this one obviously is based around a 2 by 2 by 2 inch square. So you've got 2 inches wide, 2 inches high and 2 inches here, but you can make them any size. And in the video I explain about making this inner square of the lid. I show you how to make 2 1/8, and the reason I do this is so that it fits onto your box easier. If you made it with a 2 inch square in the middle like this one, then it will go on, but it's a tighter fit, and it will fit, but sometimes it can kind of buckle one of your sides. So that's why I explain how to add the 1/16 of an inch on either side, because this one, when you gather your box up, this one fits on a lot easier. Well, it does if you can hold it all together, and that one sits far better. So I'm going to go into Canvas now and show you how to actually create the cutting file. Okay, so I'm in ScanNCut Canvas. I'm going to choose basic shape and I'm going to choose a rectangle, and I know that my box is going to be 2 by 2 by 2, so that effectively is a 6 inch by 2 inch rectangle that I need to start off with. I'm just going to rotate this because I find it easier to work with it vertically, but that's just me. So I'm going to go to Properties. I'm going to untick the Maintain Aspect Ratio. I'm going to make the width 2 inches. And the height I'm going to make 6. Then while this is selected, I'm going to right click and hit duplicate, and then I'm going to hold my shift key down and rotate this one so it's horizontal. I'm going to drag an imaginary, I'll get rid of that, I'm going to drag an imaginary box round both and go Edit, Align Center and Edit, Align Middle, and that puts the two directly centrally to each other. While they're both selected, I'm going to go to Edit and Weld, and that makes my first base layer. With that selected, I'm going to come to the Edit menu, choose the Create Offset line. I'm going to choose Inward. I'm going to take the spacing all the way down to the left and then bring it back until it's 0.24, which is effectively a 1/4 of an inch. But what that will do, that will take a 1/4 of an inch off each side. So my next inward layer will be 1/2 an inch smaller than the first layer. I'm going to leave it on bevel. It's sometimes on rounded as default, but I've been using this program before and using the bevel setting. You want bevel because you're dealing with straight lines. So I'm going to make sure bevel is selected and click OK. And that's now made me this inward layer. So with that selected, I'm going to come back to Edit, come back to the Create Offset line again. I'm still on inward, I'm still on bevel, and I'm going to do the same thing, make the spacing 0.24 and say OK. And that's made my third layer. So I'm just going to separate these out so you can see them. Now we want to put our fold lines in. This first rectangle was made on the basis of that this first piece was 2 inches wide. So this square in the middle here is 2 by 2. So we're going to choose a square, choose properties, tick the maintain aspect ratio because I want the size to come down on both width and height this time, and take it down to 2 inches. With that selected, I'm going to go back to the properties box. I'm going to change it to a cut line and make it a dashed line, and I'm just going to choose the first dash line. So this is a cut line and this is a dash line. I'm going to put the two together, select both, go to edit, align center and edit align middle, and that's now put my fold lines in for the first layer of my explosion box. So I'm going to select both. With them both selected, I'm going to right click and group. I'm just going to move it over and come to the next one. Now this one, if you remember when we did the inward, we made it 1/4 of an inch smaller on each side. So this should be 1/2 inch smaller. So I'm going to go back to the square. This time I'm going to make this 1.5 inches. So I'm going to go to the properties box and make it 1.5 inches square. Again, while the properties box is still open, I'm going to change it to a cut line and a dash line. Put that one on there, select just these two, can get rid of that for a minute, edit, align center, edit, align middle, while they're both selected, right click and group. And then do this last one. Again, this should be 1/2 inch smaller than this, so this middle section here should be 1 inch. So we'll go to the square. You could have done the same thing, you could start off with a 2 inch box and do a 0.24 inward and an inward again on the squares, but I'm just showing you for the video just so you know how it's done, and then you can find your own shortcuts once you kind of understand the principle. So with the square selected, I'm going to take this down to 1 inch. Again, while it's selected, I'm going to choose a cut line and choose a dash line, and then I'm going to place it on there, select both of those, edit, align center and edit, align middle, and while they're both still selected, right click and group. So these now will all line up on top of each other, and that's how you get your explosion box layer. So now it needs a lid. So I'm going to go back to the square, and we know that the biggest layer is the bottom layer, which had a 2 inch square, but the lid needs to be a little bit bigger than 2 inches. So I'm going to make it 1/8 of an inch bigger, and it'll hopefully all come clear in a few minutes. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this square, go to the properties box, make sure maintain aspect ratio is selected, and I want it to be 2 1/8 by 2 1/8. But if I put 2 1/8 in here, it will actually make this square 2 1/4 because it doubles it up. It puts an eighth on one side and 1/8 on the other, and I only want the overall size to be 1/8 bigger on the width and 1/8 bigger on the height. So we need to use sixteenths. So a 1/16 of an inch is 0.06. So I'm going to make this square 2.06 square, which when it's put a 1/16 on this side and a 1/16 on this side will make the overall size 2 1/8 of an inch. I know it's a bit confusing, but hopefully you understand. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this a dashed line, and I'm going to make it red just so I can see it. So I'm going to choose cut line, dash line, and I'm going to make it red so it stands out. Now I want the sides of my box to be 3/4 of an inch bigger all the way round. So I'm going to make another square on the outside, which will be this 2 1/8 plus 3/4 and 3/4, which is a. So I want this outer box to be 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. So I'm going to choose the properties box, make sure maintain aspect ratio is selected, and take this down to 3.5. Then I'm going to bring it to the red one and I'm going to centre them. So edit, align centre, edit, align middle. And when I click in the middle here, it's the outer box that's being selected. So I'm going to send that to the back just to make it a little bit easier when I come to work with it. And to check it's on the back, if you click in the middle of the red one, it will select the red one. And that means this is on top. So I'm just going to try and zoom in a bit now to make this a little bit easier. So to clarify, the outer layer of the explosion box is 2 by 2, but you need to have your lid 1/8 of an inch bigger. So this red box is 2 1/8 by 2 1/8, and I want the sections of the lid that fold down to be 3/4 of an inch on either side. So that's where I get the 3.5 inches from for this. Okay, now you could remove this red section and delete it and just cut this square as it is and score it at 2 1/8 on all 4 sides, and then cut your flaps and, you know, fold your corners in. But I'm just showing you how to do it all in ScanNCut, and then you can choose how you want to do it. And this red box, you could leave this in as well and then fold it, but it would only fold where you've made the dash. So you'd have to, you know, fold this using a bone folder, and this is why I'm showing you how to do it this way, and then you've got all the different options. So these two are centralized to each other now. Basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw some fold lines in and remove this box at the end. So I'm going to come to the path icon and select it, and then I'm going to start outside of the square, hold my shift key down and drag out a straight line and finish outside of the square and double click. While this is selected, I'm going to come to the properties box. I'm going to change it to black just so it will hopefully show up against this red square that's in the middle that I'm only using as a guideline at the moment. I'm going to tick cut line and dash line because I want it to be a dash line. And then with this still selected, using the arrows on my keyboard, I'm just going to bring this down a little bit so it actually sits on top of this red line. So I'm going to try and zoom in a bit more just so you can see. Okay, so that's sat on there. While it's still selected, I'm going to right click, hopefully, right click and duplicate and bring this one down and position this over this red line. And the reason that I start them extending beyond this cut line and this cut line is so that they're easier to get hold of if you need to manipulate them. Like if I just start out here and just grab that, it automatically selects it, and I can see it's just extending beyond. And these dash lines will be in the waist of your card anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so that's that fold line and that's that fold line. Now I'm going to do exactly the same coming this way, but I'm only going to do it from this point to this point because I want to put a cut line in here to make it easier to make the box when it's being assembled. So again, I'm going to come to the path icon, and then this time, because I'm using something to grab hold of, it's actually grabbing hold of this red corner here. So I'm going to left click, drag a straight line down and anchor it on this black line here and double click. While it's selected, go to the properties box, cut line, dash line, and then I'm going to do exactly the same here. So back to the icon, the path icon, click here. As soon as I hover over it without even clicking, you'll see a blue square appear, which means it's kind of clamped, kind of latched on to the fact that there's something there. And this is the new feature that we got in the last update. So I'm going to, when that box appears, I'm going to left click, hold my shift key down, drag a straight line out until I see that blue box appear again, and double click to anchor it. Again, I'm going to make it a cut line and a dash line. Now I want to put 4 cut lines in. So one here, one here, one here, and one here. So again, I'm going to come back to the path line. I'm going to come here and I'll automatically get that little blue box. I'm going to left click, hold the shift key, and drag up to the outside of this square and double click, and that will be a cut line. I don't need to make it a cut or a dash line. If I use the properties box, it's automatically a cut or a draw line, so I can leave that one as it is. I'm going to do exactly the same, come back to the path icon, left click, drag my straight line up, double click, and that's a cut line. Come back and do exactly the same, left click, hold my shift key down, double click, and last time left click, double click, and they're cut lines. Now I want to try and select this red square in the middle to get rid of it. So I'm clicking in the middle, and hopefully that should be the red square, which I no longer need because I was only using it as a guideline to put in these lines. So I can delete that. Now I can select just my 2 lots of squares and all my dash lines and right click and group, and then if I go back to zoom and view and fit to mat, there are all my sections now of my card. So this square in the middle is 2 1/8 by 2 1/8, which is 1/8 of an inch bigger than this square here. So when this is all folded up, this lid will sit over this neatly. So I'm going to put that down there. I'm going to separate these out all onto the mat, and then you can save the cutting file all as one, and you can either cut it all out of the same card, or when you bring it into the scan and cut, you can choose to just cut whichever sections you want. So you'll give it a name under the project title here, and then you hit save. I'm not going to save this because I've already made one, but that's how I made the exploding box. Then obviously if you want to take it a step further, you can make matting layers and cut them in paper and layer it all up, or make decorations, whatever you want to do. But that's the principle for making the exploding box. And obviously you can make this any size you want. Obviously mine ends up as a 2 by 2 by 2 box. If you want to make this 11 inches by 4 inches, just start with a rectangle of that size and follow this video and make your lid exactly in the same way as I've showed you based on your measurements. So I hope you found that helpful, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing the last few videos that I've made on creating different shaped cards. I know this is more of a box, but it can be used, or people do use them as cards. In fact, there'll still be some probably out there on the internet that I made a long time ago for the Craft Robo and the Puzzles, and I did one for a relative that was 40, and I made an exploding box card for her birthday. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed them. Please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe so that you're always kept up to date with all the videos that I post, and follow my blog and you'll find all kinds of hints and tips and projects on there. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.